Hey everybody, you can tell I'm in a hotel room. It's a hotel room that looks like 100 other hotel rooms that I've stayed in. Today, I'm in Green River, Wyoming. I'm doing work with a client not far from here, and I'm working in a plant environment where there are lots of challenges and lots of stuff. I'm going to get to that in a second. But first of all, thanks for joining me. And second of all, if you've got questions or comments, if you're watching me live, just put those notes over here. And if you've got questions afterwards, if you're not watching live, put your questions here. We'll get back to you as well. I'm happy to be talking to you today about a couple of things I've learned at this plant site that I've been at and some observations that I've made. Nothing particular to them. I don't want to, no confidences, of course, that it will be breached anyway. But before I get going on that, just let me tell you that we are getting ready to release our masterclass called The Journey to Remarkable Leadership, and you can learn more and get signed up for free at kevineikenberry.com/way. So anyway, like I said, I've been working at this plant facility 24 hours a day, shift work all day long, all night long, in a plant that's very old, with old technology, requires lots of people, and it's very mechanically based, and so there's lots of challenges. And so I can't really talk to you from there because confidentiality and all those sorts of things, but here's what I can tell you. What I can tell you is that their environment that those leaders work in is probably different than the environment that you work in. And yet what they experience is exactly what you experience. So they wear steel-toed shoes and you may not. And they work in all sorts of weather and you may work inside. And yet the need for us to be leaders and the need for our teams to have leaders doesn't really change. And while the context is different, and I'm sorry, I'm looking over here at my notes a little bit. Here's what I want to tell you today, that whatever our situation, whatever our context and whatever we wear to do the work, the reality is that leading is leading, and it's far more the same than different. And it all starts, and I've been really been reminded, I guess is the best way to say it, been reminded of that this week, is that it's all starts with the principles, right? And the principles of leadership is that it's about people, and it's about having clear expectations, and it's about having clear accountability, and we can't get to clear accountability unless we have clear expectations. And it's about finding the time to do the leadership and not just be lost in the urgent, moving from one crisis to the next. And again, your situation may be different than the one with the leaders that I'm working this week, but the challenges at the end of the day are all the same. They have pressures around productivity, they have pressures around production, they have pressures around safety, they have challenges just like you. And if we get lost in the work, if we get stuck in the urgent, we can't get to the leadership stuff. If we don't have clear expectations, we can't get to the levels of accountability we want. If we don't have the culture that we want, it starts with us. So what am I talking about today? I'm talking about some principles of leadership that apply regardless of where we go. And without those principles in place, if we don't learn those fundamentals, we can never lead at the level that we're capable of leading. One of the things that I've told people many times that I think is useful for you today, and maybe you may have even heard me say it, but here it is, that we as leaders can learn from any other leader. And somebody say, well, I haven't had very good leaders, Kevin. I've had leaders who weren't all that great, but there's lessons to learn from the leaders who have done well and lessons to learn from the leaders who have not done not so well. Which principles have they applied successfully, or why have they not been very successful? So my challenge for you today is to think about principles, to think about the principles that the fundamentals, if you will, of us leading successfully. And again, that's why I'm so excited about our Remarkable Way product and the master series that I'm going to share with you, a series of videos, and you can sign up for that for free. Again, it's called The Journey to Remarkable Leadership. And one of the things that you can be assured that we'll talk about are principles. You can sign up for that at kevineikenberry.com/way. It's listed over here on the side. Just click the link. Pretty straightforward. Principles is my message for you today, and it's got to be our starting point. And if And here's the thing. Some are saying, well, Kevin, I've been leading for a long time. I think I understand the principles. You haven't said anything to me that I don't already know, which is great. The problem is, or maybe the question for you is, are you leading with them? Sometimes we forget the fundamentals and we stray from them and we get caught up in the big new ideas, like engaging our employees and 100 other things. And people like me talk about, right? These new ideas, we got to be transparent and we got to have all these other things. The reality is it still all starts with fundamentals. You've got folks. How well do you know your folks? Are you building trust with your folks and in your folks? What are you doing that's leading people to interact with you in a way that might not be most effective? If people keep coming into your office and interrupting you, not exactly the situation where I'm at this week, where it's not really about an office as much, but if people are coming in and interrupting you all the time and you're answering their questions, guess what? They're going to keep coming back. I'm talking about principles of leadership that we may forget or we may not apply correctly. See, the other thing is you may know them, but you may not apply them. There's a big difference between knowing and doing, right? And so my challenge to you today is to think about where are you struggling as a leader today? And step back and think about principles and say, well, what might I change that might start to change that outcome? Because the reality is people are going to treat us in a way that we're teaching them to work with us. And so if we're not getting the results that we want, we need to look in the mirror and say, what part of this belongs to me? Asking that accountable question. And again, what am I talking about? I'm talking about principles. And I'm a big believer in, if we start with the right fundamentals, then we can build the other stuff on. Then we can talk nuance. Then we can talk all those other things. But until we get the principles right, until we get the underlying fundamentals right, we can't ultimately be as successful as we want to be. So that's my thought for you today. I gotta put on my steel-toe boots, and I gotta get ready to go out to this plant and work with these leaders for a couple more days. And if I get a chance, I'll come live again, maybe from outdoors, and use my phone to show you some of this scenery and talk to you some more about some things I'm learning. But my message for you today is about principles. I hope you'll take advantage of that. I hope you'll take my challenge and say, what can I do differently today based on principles that may help me be more successful? And the other thing I want you to do today is go to kevineikenberry.com/way and sign up for our upcoming masterclass video series. If you do that, it would be great. You will benefit, I promise you. And the cost? $0. Hey, everybody, thanks so much. Greetings again from Green River, Wyoming, and we'll talk to you all soon.